Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be going over J.J. Watt, and we're going to be talking about what he brings to the Arizona Cardinals in 2021, how he can change this franchise moving forward. And before we get started, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. That would really help my channel grow. I would really appreciate that. And with that said, let's dive right into the video, and I hope you enjoy. So before we start getting to the nitty-gritty of J.J. Watt signing with the Cardinals, I just want to talk about his stats last season. In 16 games, he didn't have the best season of his career. I mean, he only had 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, but he had 40 solo tackles, and he earned an 85.4 PFF player grade. That broke down to an 81 PFF player grade as a run defender and a 76.6 PFF player grade as a pass rusher. I mean, a guy like J.J. Watt is not as explosive as he was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. He's had tons of injuries since then, but nonetheless, he's still one of the premier pass rushers in the NFL, and he's a guy that you put in Arizona who adds a different dimension to the defense. So let's start by talking about the contract, and it's going to be a 2-year deal worth $31 million, $23 million guaranteed, and there's some incentives based on how many sacks J.J. Watt gets. I think in that first year, if he gets 10 plus sacks, it's an extra $1 million. And in the second year, if he gets 10 plus sacks, I think that's $2 million. So there's a little bit of incentives for sacks. I mean, this is a guy that you bring to Arizona that is a culture shift kind of guy. This Cardinals team just missed out on the playoffs last year after a pretty good start to the season. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins had a good year. Kyler Murray was looking fantastic. Although the run game was a little up and down as the year went, that offense really pushed that team forward. And although they did lose Chandler Jones and their defense was up and down, they were pretty much an average defense throughout the entire year. And they were really close to making the playoffs. They couldn't quite get the wins towards the end of the season. But nonetheless, this is a team that is on the rise. They've got their franchise quarterback in Kyler Murray. They have great weapons on offense. And this defense was starting to take shape last year. Although they have a lot of guys that are going to be free agents and a lot of, potential guys that aren't going to be able to be back with the team because, they don't have tons of cap space. The guys like Haason Reddick, guys like Markus Golden, guys like Patrick Peterson, those are guys that could be on their way out the door. But then you bring in a guy like J.J. Watt, and here's what J.J. Watt does. You pair him next to a guy like Chandler Jones, and you have one of the top elite NFL pass rushing tandems in the entire league. I mean, if you remember, sure, Chandler Jones got injured last year, but the year before he had 19.5 sacks. I believe he had 19.5 sacks. It was under 19 or 19.5 sacks. And J.J. Watt has been a consistent big sack guy throughout his entire career. I think that J.J. Watt will easily get to 8 to 10 sacks next season, although he's not as good as he was, when he was being, defensive player of the year worthy kinds of years for J.J. Watt. He's not playing at that level anymore. Nonetheless, though, he's still one of the NFL's better defensive ends who can really get to the quarterback and just be a focal point of a defense because of his big athletic ability, his great ability to get off the edge and get to quarterbacks, but also his ability to use his hands and bat down passes. That's something that J.J. Watt's done throughout his entire career, and he just adds another facet to this Cardinals defense that really allows them to truly be great at rushing the passer. I mean, I would not be surprised if we saw 45 to 50 sacks as a defensive unit next season for this Cardinals team, just because of what Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt brings to the table. Also, I mean, the leadership on this team is going to be fantastic. You've got some really good older bodies in there that really know how to lead a team. Obviously, J.J. Watt, obviously Chandler Jones, but then you get some younger guys like Budda Baker. You've got Jordan Hicks, and the bringing together of those bodies, I think, could be a really good thing for this Cardinals defense, especially with Isaiah Simmons. Obviously picking him in the first round last year. This defense is starting to come around. However, there are going to be some casualties on that defense. Patrick Peterson, I don't know, is going to be able to re-sign. So the secondary is going to be something that the Cardinals are going to look for in the offseason, maybe in free agency or in the draft. Watch out for that. I think in my mock draft that I did earlier, I ended up giving them J.C. Horn at the 16th overall pick. So the thing is with J.J. Watt, they add another legit defensive superstar to that team that's really going to help them in the locker room and on the field. And also, I think this defense, it doesn't have to be a top 10 defense in the NFL, but it needs to be a defense that can keep the offense in games, right? That means that, if this defense is able to come up with timely sacks, timely turnovers, then they're going to be good, or at least they're going to be good enough for this Cardinals team as a total, because we know that offense is going to put up points. They're going to be a high-flying offense. I love what Cliff Kingsbury's done so far in his tenure with the Arizona Cardinals. I love what Kyler Murray is developing into. I love him as a player. I love DeAndre Hopkins, and even a guy like Christian Kirk, too, who's developing really nicely. Chase Edmonds as a running back. They've got pieces on the offensive side of the football to go up and put 25, 27 points points a game. That's going to happen next season. Another year of Kyler Murray, add a few more offensive weapons. This offense is going to be a top 10 offense in the NFL next season. It's just, can the defense keep up? And I think by adding J.J. Watt, you get a real guy who can be a true difference maker on the defensive side of the football, a guy who can go after the quarterback and just be another guy to be just a disruptor. That's what J.J. Watt is. That's what he's done throughout his entire career. And I think that J.J. Watt going to Arizona is a great move for the Cardinals, because it gives them more leadership. It gives them another veteran guy who can really, help this team go to the playoffs and win playoff games. And at the end of the day, that's the goal for this Cardinals team. If you remember a few years ago, the Cardinals went out and got Terrell Suggs in free agency, right? They spent a considerable bit of money on taking Terrell Suggs away from the Ravens and bringing him to Arizona. And that didn't work out because Suggs was past his prime, and he was that old pass rusher that really didn't have that same explosiveness. And although J.J. Watt is similar in the situation that, yeah, he's on the older side, yep, you're going to pay him a lot of money. It's only a 2-year deal. Remember that. It's only a 2-year deal. This isn't a super long-term deal for J.J. Watt. But nonetheless, I mean, it's a different situation because J.J. Watt is a different kind of player. Terrell Suggs, off-ball linebacker. J.J. Watt, big-time defensive end. And this guy, even if he's not going to be great as a pass rusher, he's still going to be a great run defender, too. So, I mean, he's got the two-sided punch. He's got that athletic ability to really be a difference maker. And I think he's going to be a really important plug for this Cardinals defense that gives another superstar caliber player to that defense, which, one, helps them on the field just with, pure talent-wise from a talent standpoint, but also it just gives another veteran leader in that locker room that's only going to help an overall younger team with some really good young players that are going to help them grow and evolve. So overall, I love what J.J. Watt brings to the table in Arizona. I would not be shocked if we saw somewhere between 8 to 12, 8 to 10 sacks from him next season, and I think him and Chandler Jones are going to be scary to play against for the NFC West. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the analysis for today. What did you agree with? Why or why not? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. I'd really appreciate that too. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, see ya.